Hi, friends. In my journey after cancer, especially the last couple of years, um, I find that things just sort of come to me. So I'm just going to share something that came to me the other morning when I woke up. And it was a story I'd read some time ago in The Joy of Living. It's called A Profound Teaching. So here goes. As close to memory as I can make it. There was a young man, and he had been searching for most of his life for a profound teaching, something that would give great meaning to his life. And at a certain point, he approached a Buddhist master and asked the Buddhist master to give him a profound teaching. I imagine he had to screw up his courage to do this. The master looked him over and agreed. And he said, I will give you your profound teaching. But first, let's have a cup of tea. You can imagine the man was overjoyed and excited. So he sat in the hut of the Buddhist monk who prepared the tea for him and brought it to him in a cup and told him to go ahead and drink. And as he raised the cup up to his lips, he could feel that, the tea was very warm, and he could see the steam rising off the tea. And it just smelled really earthy. And as he brought it to his lips and started to take a sip, suddenly his whole environment changed. Kind of like when you're having a dream and things just suddenly shift. And he's in this meadow, and it's a beautiful day. It's a green meadow, and there's a really big lake. He's very close to the shore of the lake. Just deep blue, very calm water. And in the background, he can see the mountains rising above into the sky. It's just a beautiful day. Little white cumulus, puffy clouds, and birds singing. And he's just kind of enchanted, standing there taking it in. And it's been such a shift that he isn't really thinking. He's just actually in the moment, experiencing this meadow and this lake and the mountains. And he hears footsteps behind him. Turns around, and there's a young woman. She's carrying water buckets, and she's approaching the lake. And again, he doesn't really think. He's sort of off kilter. There's something. He just feels this immediate connection to her and this deep love. There's nothing in the way she looks or moves or anything like that. It's this almost bodily kind of spiritual experience. And very unlike himself, he tells this stranger, and she, there's kind of a moment when she stops, and then she says, that's just the strangest thing, because I felt exactly the same way. Like, you and I were old companions. I had known you forever. I had very deep connection to you, very loving connection. So she gets the water. She lives with her elderly parents, and that's one of her jobs every day, is to fetch water for them. And he follows her back to the hut where the family lives. And, they're very traditional, but over time, he visits every day. He helps them out on the farm. And over time, the parents come to where they really trust him and where they're very fond of him. And so they're willing, again, very traditional, to allow him and their daughter to get married. And so they do. They continue to live with the elderly parents, and they have a good life, a happy life. And about 3 years into the marriage, the woman gives birth to a little boy, and he's just perfect, laughing, full of energy and spunk and joy. The young man is just, very grateful for the life that he has. And then a couple of years after that, 2-3 years later, she has a little girl. And the little girl is just like a golden ray of sunshine, just so full of life and authenticity. And so they live a very happy life. Bad things happen, there are storms and there are losses and, there are problems that arise, but overall the whole family is very happy until the oldest child, the boy, turns 14. And shortly after his 14th birthday, he suddenly falls quite ill. And he had been a healthy child, but he just doesn't, he doesn't seem to be able to fight whatever this is. So, the father goes and gets the local medicine person who comes out to the home and diagnoses him and provides treatment. And the boy just doesn't get any better. So over quite a few months, the father ends up going further and further and further away from the home to find medical help, to try to find somebody who can correctly diagnose and treat and cure his son. But nothing works, and the boy just gets increasingly weak and frail. And in less than a year, he dies. Obviously the family is just blown away. It's a horrible, horrible loss. The mother just sort of takes to her bed and becomes almost mute. The father, the man, is focused on his daughter and making sure his daughter's okay. So that kind of keeps him a little bit together. The grandparents, just are grieving very heavily. And not too long after that, several weeks, maybe a month after that, the daughter's out gathering firewood, and that's one of her jobs, in the woods. And although there's never been, as far as they know, a wildcat sighting in those woods, she's attacked by a tiger and killed. And he doesn't know this. When she doesn't come home, at a regular hour, he goes out looking for her. And he finds the remains of her badly mutilated body. There's not much left. And so he has to go home and tell his wife and tell his in-laws. It's too much for the wife, for the mother. Both her children, that night she walks down to the lake and she drowns herself. The parents, his in-laws, having lost, they're older. They expected their daughter to outlive them. They certainly expected their grandchildren to outlive them. And they lose all hope for life. They just, we can't start over. We can't do this anymore. And so they decide to starve themselves. And he really tries to get them to eat and drink, because they're also not drinking, but he's not able to convince them to take anything in, and they're elderly and they're not eating and they're not drinking much, so it doesn't take long for them to die, and they die very close together, just hours apart. And the young man he decides, that's it. I've lost literally everything I love, everything I care about, everything that has any meaning. There's nothing left in this life for me. And so he goes to the lake with the intention of drowning himself as well, and dying where his wife died. And he's walking through the meadow, approaching the lake. And just before he steps into the water, everything shifts. Everything shifts. And he is back in that hut with the Buddhist monk, and he is holding the cup, that same cup of tea, up to his mouth with his hands, and the cup is still warm. And he looks down, and the steam is still rising. And he smells that earthy smell of the tea. And the Buddhist monk says to him, "There is your profound teaching." And as you might imagine, this young man can't think straight. He probably isn't even sure that he's not dreaming or whatever. And he just, I don't understand. I don't understand. And the monk says to him, the life that you had with your wife and in-laws and children was real. Sitting here with me today is real. But there are only two realities of an unlimited number of possibilities. These are only two. There are possible realities all around you. And we decide those. When I first read this story, it really didn't hold much meaning for me. But when I woke up the other morning remembering it, because I had gone to sleep kind of questioning my ability to do some healing. I have bad osteoporosis from the chemotherapy, which I'm not upset about that. The chemo saved my life. There's no doubt about that. But it left me with, really delicate bones. And I also had very bad neuropathy when I first finished the chemo. And full disclosure, I'm a nurse. I have a master's degree in nursing. And I'm also a psychiatric social worker. But I knew from my nursing background that, nerves heal very slowly, very slowly. And people my age, 67, often they don't heal. They don't heal fully. You're talking about young children. And still, you're looking at months or years for nerves to heal. They're very slow. And the only thing that's slower than nerves is bone tissue. And I had an experience early on that the neuropathy, the nerve damage just went away. Every now and then I'll have a tiny bit of it, but 85%. Initially I couldn't hold a cup. I would drop it because I couldn't get my hand. Couldn't get my hand to work. Couldn't get it to hold on. So, and kind of what nobody could really explain that I had that much healing that fast. It just didn't really make sense. Other than I won't go into this now, but I believed that was possible, even though logically it didn't make a whole lot of sense. And so with the osteoporosis, I was kind of like getting the same feeling that it could heal, but also, and I'd had a scan that was better than the first scan a little bit, not a lot, but a scan after 1 year was better than the first one. And the doctor said, "Oh, well, the first scan must have been wrong. That there was an error." But I'd had a couple bad falls too, or one bad fall, and really thought I was scared to get up because I was like, "Oh, I'm broken my tailbone or something for sure." With spinal osteoporosis in my spine and my pelvis and my leg bones, and I was fine. I couldn't believe it. So anyway, I was kind of doubting that night and went to bed, really kind of asking for, some kind of message in my dreams or something, to let me kind of know about that, I guess. This is all quite new to me. I, used to be a very, very logical person, didn't believe any woo-woo stuff, even with all the studies that backed up woo-woo stuff. But, and so then I woke up with this story on my mind. And I thought, that's a pretty clear answer. So I just want to encourage you to have faith in yourself, to have faith in your body. We can change. The hardest part of change, you think it's the actual change. It's really not. You can change very quickly. And having worked emergency psych, I will tell you, I've seen people change overnight, drastically, in crisis. The hard thing about change, the thing that takes so long, is convincing ourselves that we can. Convincing ourselves that it's possible. Once we convince ourselves, and we're truly convinced, not, in the mirror, yeah, I believe this, but really deep down in our gut, believe it, change can happen like that. So I've had some things that help me, and, I plan to share those as we go on. But right now, I just want to encourage you and say, your life can be better. And it's not necessarily your surroundings. Yes, extra money helps. Yes, less pain helps. Yes, air conditioning in the summer helps. But the big thing is what happens inside your mind and how your mind can change your body and change your emotion and change your outlook, and how you can get on a positive spiral that reinforces itself, where the more you change, the more you change. So just want to say, God bless you, or whatever spirit world you believe in. If you're a humanist, that's fine too, whatever. But bless and keep you. May the universe bless and keep you. And I send love to you, and I sincerely hope that you can feel that love, because it's real. It's real. And you are a beautiful, beautiful person, and you're the only one. So I hope you have a good night.